when the goodbye didn't hurt as much as who you had to become to survive them. Something inside you knew the ending long before the words were spoken. The pain was not in the separation itself, but in the transformation it forced upon you. So breathe with me now, slowly. Let your inhale settle into the part of your chest that learned to stay strong when it wanted to rest, and let your exhale soften the weight of the version of yourself you had to build just to make it through. You didn't walk away unchanged. You adapted. You hardened where you used to be soft. You became alert where you once felt safe. You learned to guard your emotions, to anticipate disappointment, to manage your reactions so things wouldn't fall apart. And that version of you did its job, protected you, kept you functioning. It helped you survive. But survival is not the same as living. And now, in the quiet after goodbye, you are left facing the truth that hurts the most. The person you became to endure that relationship no longer feels like you. Take another breath. The goodbye was brief, maybe even calm, maybe even necessary. But the real cost came before it, during all the moments you reshaped yourself to fit into something that kept hurting you. You learned how to stay quiet when speaking felt risky. You learned how to be understanding when your own needs were ignored. You learned how to stay composed while something inside you slowly shut down. You became strong because you had to, not because you wanted to. And strength born from necessity leaves a different kind of ache. Breathe again. There is a deep grief in realizing that you didn't just lose a relationship, you lost access to parts of yourself. Parts that felt open, trusting, expressive. Parts that laughed freely, loved without fear, spoke without rehearsing. To survive, you learned to control your reactions. You learned to minimize your expectations. You learned to carry emotional weight quietly. And over time, that survival mode became your default. You didn't notice it happening. You just became someone who could endure more than you should have had to. The goodbye didn't hurt as much because by the time it arrived, you were already numb, already armored, already exhausted from being who you needed to be to make it through each day. Take another slow breath. This kind of pain is difficult to explain because it doesn't look dramatic. There was no explosion, no sudden collapse, just a long process of becoming more guarded, more careful, more distant from your own feelings. You may even feel relief now that it's over. Relief that you no longer have to perform strength. Relief that you no longer have to manage the emotional climate. Relief that you can finally exhale. And yet, alongside that relief, there is sadness. Sadness for the softness you lost. Sadness for the innocence that faded. Sadness for the version of you that existed before survival became necessary. Breathe again. The person you became was not a mistake. They were a response to instability, to inconsistency, to emotional unpredictability. You didn't choose to change. You adapted because you needed to protect yourself. And that matters. But now that version of you might feel heavy, might feel disconnected, might feel unfamiliar. And healing now is not about erasing what you went through. It's about learning how to slowly, gently release the armor you no longer need. Take another breath. Let your body feel the difference between safety and survival. Safety allows you to soften. Survival demands that you stay alert. For a long time, you lived in survival mode, even during moments that were supposed to feel loving. And that constant tension reshaped you. It taught you how to stay composed instead of expressive. It taught you how to endure instead of ask. It taught you how to be strong instead of supported. And now, after the goodbye, your nervous system doesn't know how to stand down. It's still guarding, still bracing, still waiting for impact that no longer comes. Breathe again. This is why the goodbye didn't hurt as much as who you became. Because the real wound was not the ending. The real wound was the long process of becoming someone who could tolerate what should never have been tolerated. And acknowledging that truth is painful. It means recognizing that you were changed by the experience, that you lost something along the way, that you learned patterns you never wanted to learn. But it also means recognizing your resilience, your capacity to endure, your strength to survive something that demanded more than it should have. One day you will not need that version of yourself anymore. One day you will feel your shoulders relax without effort. One day your voice will rise without fear. One day your heart will open again without needing armor. But for now, breathe. Honor the version of you that kept you alive. And know that healing is not about going back to who you were before. It's about becoming someone new. Someone who no longer has to survive love to stay in it. When the goodbye didn't hurt as much as who you had to become to survive them, healing begins in a strange place. Not in missing them, not in replaying memories, but in noticing how tense your body still feels even when nothing is wrong. You may catch yourself staying guarded in moments that are safe. You may notice how quickly you brace for disappointment. You may feel how unfamiliar softness has become. So breathe slowly now. Let your inhale travel into the places that learn to stay alert. Let your exhale remind your nervous system that the danger has passed. The version of you that survived was always watching, always adapting, always preparing for the next emotional shift. And that vigilance doesn't disappear just because the relationship ends. It lingers. It shapes how you move through the world. It influences how you connect, how you trust, how you let yourself be seen. This is why the goodbye felt easier than expected. By the time it arrived, you had already done the hardest work, becoming someone who could endure. Take another breath. There is grief in realizing that you don't immediately know how to be gentle with yourself anymore. That rest feels uncomfortable. That calm feels unfamiliar. That receiving care feels suspicious. Survival taught you to rely on yourself, to regulate alone, to stay strong no matter what. And while that strength saved you, it also cost you ease, cost you openness. It cost you parts of your emotional range. Healing now is not about judging that version of yourself. It's about slowly teaching your body that it no longer has to live that way. Breathe again. The person you became was not cold. They were careful. They were not distant. They were protecting what little safety they had left. And as you begin to feel safe again, you may notice waves of emotion you didn't have access to before. Sadness, anger, tenderness, relief, all arriving at once without order. This is not regression. This is release. Your heart stays guarded. Your expectations lower so disappointment hurts less. And you call this patience, when in reality it is emotional survival. Breathe again. One of the hardest realizations is that potential can keep you trapped longer than pain. Pain is honest. It demands attention. Potential is seductive. It whispers that everything will be worth it soon. That if you just wait a little longer, love will finally arrive in the form you've been imagining. And so you wait, you stay, you invest more, you compromise again, until one day you notice how tired you are, not from loving them, but from waiting for them to become someone else. Take another slow breath. As time passes, you will begin to recognize moments when your shoulders drop without effort, when your thoughts slow naturally, when your reactions soften, when you no longer anticipate harm where there is none. These moments may feel subtle, but they are profound. They are signs that your system is learning safety again, that your heart is remembering how to exist without armor, that the version of you who had to survive is slowly being thanked and released. Take one more breath. The goodbye did not break you. It revealed how much you endured. And now, the work ahead is not about becoming who you were before. It is about becoming someone who no longer has to sacrifice themselves to stay connected. Someone who no longer confuses survival with love. Someone who allows relationships to feel safe, mutual, and grounding. You are not behind. You are not damaged. You adapted to survive something difficult. And now, gently, patiently, you are learning how to live again. The chapter ended quietly, but the transformation it created will lead you somewhere softer, somewhere safer, somewhere that feels like home inside your own body.